So, yeah, I just came back from a walk with my doggie. She was a little restless last night. Her demons were just rearing their ugly heads. So, I know that when the demons are leaving, they make quite a ruckus when they leave. And so, yeah, some of the mucus coming out of her back end, awake, running the circuit, it's fine. You know, it is what it is, and she goes to sleep, and then she woke up with me this morning, actually pretty early. And so I was posting stuff, like little memes and whatever. And anyways, so last night I posted something about how do you think AIDS was developed? Because the virus, all these viruses out there, were derived from some type of remedy and some type of drug and pharmaceutical. And yes, the body built a defense against it. And the reason why it is not a drug anymore, but it's a virus, because the person released the mucus into the atmosphere. So it took something that was personal to them, again, like that specific remedy, like that specific pharmaceutical. The body built a defense system against it, and the mucus holds that programming. Now, when someone else picks it up, it's not protection to them. Because you think, oh, they got someone else's drug against, certain things. So here's the thing. Let's go a little bit more technical so you understand. When someone has a transplant, and they get some kind of immune suppression drugs, let's say like cyclosporin, one of the most strongest drugs out there against the immune system. So it actually suppresses the immune system, suppresses the T cells. You could say block, suppress, destroy, eat, however you want to say it, neutralize. There's so many words to say the same thing. It's however picture you want to paint, okay? But the cyclosporin was meant to block the immune system. So that way the body doesn't reject that foreign object. People are like, oh, what the whole thing with the J juice, Jillian? You think that if I have a transplant, I do J juice, will the J juice purge it out? Yeah, I won't say purge it out right off the bat, but I mean, I'm sure the body has to go through a process, and it'll help. And don't quote me as this like for gospel, but sure, the body is not going to destroy you while it's trying to live if you keep supporting it, but it'll be rather painful. So I wouldn't recommend anyone doing something like J juice that will activate your immune system if you hold like heart transplants or whatever. So I'll be quite honest, not everybody can do J juice because it is uncharted territory in some instances, and in most cases the person wouldn't be able to handle that transition. So anyway, let me go back to the original point about cyclosporin. It suppresses the body's immune system so it doesn't reject the transplant. And so when you're taking immune suppressing drugs, your body, will take it on, and who knows how long it'll keep suppressing the immune system, but then it's still also building a defense, an army against that drug. And so when you have one side of your body taking in information that is going against the natural processes of the other side of your body, you're going to have a war of plus and minus. You've just created a war. And so you're building up defenses against that, but you're taking that drug that's going to keep a streamline of soldiers suppressing the immune system. It might take a minute for your body to build up a defense against it. But in the meantime, as your body builds up a defense against the cyclosporin, the immunosuppressant for that transplant, then that gets purged out into the population. And when certain drugs with certain specific programming, targets, intentions are being purged out into the population, that's what creates the viruses, because that's a person's defense system now being released with a specific programming from that drug, from big pharma, from the holistic industry too, because people are taking the walnut oil and the peanut, all the different essential oils and extracts and whatever. And so all of those types of little microbes that the body has now developed a weapon against, and also there are specific intentions that are targeted. Okay, so when you're doing oncology types of cures, using food, using specific drugs, plants, plant alkaloids, all of that gets put out there in the population, and people are holding all of these microbes within. So when you think about how AIDS gets developed, because what does it do? It eats the T cells, or it neutralizes the T cells, or it blocks the T cells, or it devours the T cells. You call it whatever you want. And remember, biotech and different perceptions and perspectives will use different words based upon how they want you to see things. Like I know in medical news today, they said, oh yeah, and you take salt nanoparticles, and if they want to measure how much cancer is in someone, they measure by the salt, right? Because salt, why there's so much fast replication, because it has to have energy. And so they'll say, oh yeah, the salt will destroy the tumor. No, salt doesn't destroy. Salt is not antibiotic. But medical news today specifically used the word destroy to make you think that salt is deadly. If salt is deadly against tumors, what could it do for a human? What will it do to a human? And so you see how words can create worlds. That's why you have to be very careful how you use your words, because what kind of picture are you painting that you're not even aware of because you're so used to using the same words? And then you have to think about how you use your words and what kind of picture you're painting. And this is why Facebook picks up algorithms, because they see the same type of verbiage and speech from the clones out there that are extremists, and so it picks up stuff like that. And it's not that difficult. You put in, okay, put in this key phrase, put in this key phrase, put in this key phrase. And so when you're using key phrases or words or specific things or even characters, it picks up things to put in, their own fact check or whatever. Okay, so that's the thing about words, is they can paint whatever world you want. And so when you think about AIDS, and it came out in 1981, and it's in the blood, so it's not like a respiratory infection, but it doesn't have to be a respiratory infection, because that's how it was developed, through the respiratory, and maybe even through all the ways that humans exchange information. It could be sexually and all that stuff, sharing sodas, kissing, whatever. And so humans have been mutating different aspects of the drug industry, of their holistic remedy industry. And also I wouldn't doubt that if somebody is doing experiments and tests to see what the new and emerging viruses are, I mean, they find them in the mountains or they find them under the glaciers, but antiquity has practiced pharmacia. They practice alchemy. It's in all the different religions, the pagans, the Celtics, the Rosicrucians, the Jewish mysticism, the Gnostics, even, the Muslims, and all of the different cultures, India, the Hindus, whatever, even the Indians or Native Americans, the Native Americans practicing the shaman rituals, using all the herbs, mixing things together. Alchemists, every type of alchemy is a type of a drug for a specific purpose, maybe even targeting specific organs. I mean, biotech has gotten very specific in how they target things. And so the more targeted these specific drugs are based upon biotech, the more targeted these viruses are going to be. Because again, your body is going to build a defense system against every single drug that's out there that someone's on. That's why I'm saying you're surrounded. And so imagine with the drugs that people are on, whether it's directly, they're taking in directly, or they're breathing in the air and sharing bodily fluids with people who are on these therapies, then you figure out what kind of Garden of Eden that is growing inside of you. That's the suffering of humanity, is when you have a war inside. Literally, you have an actual laboratory inside of your body, literally developing huge objects that are either waxy and yeasty, that is like blocking your hearing, or it's developing at a rapid pace because of the way the programming is. And so now you have all these antibody proteins developing so quickly, the cytokine storms. Or you have, different filaments and shards of minerals that have developed into something that you feel, and it's coming out of your nostrils. And so someone sent me a testimony of what is coming out of their body, because my dog, not only has she felt the seizures, excuse me, that was a bunch of stuff. Okay, but she's also been getting or developing and purging out all the yeasty, waxy stuff that's coming out of her ears, of which is going to alter a lot of things until it finally is calmed down, until it has to express itself. And like I said last night when I did that video, you're going to have to measure out what you can handle as far as the cures without going too far and curing yourself, but not giving some kind of relief so it isn't torturing you. There's that careful balance only you and then a dog owner who knows, who's in tune with their animal, can figure out, and what they need to do. And so it's been definitely an interesting process watching my dog go through that. But let me read this. It says, quite literally, you will be reversing the aging process when you're ready to face your demons. And those things are in your body. They're like little demons. So my friend says, "Hi, Jillian. I hope I'm not disturbing you at this time. Quick update for you. It's not pretty, but it is what it is. Crazy time I've had this. I would never thought possible. Struggling with this, but okay too. A few weeks back, I had a mole on my torso, got crusty and fallen off. No trace of it now. I have a strange looking growth mole on my face that I feel goes more than skin deep. Oh, I have some of those things too. And is attached to all the wriggling, pressing, pulling, ET sensations I have throughout my face and head. This has been changing dramatically over a few months. I've had a layer of it go crusty and so itchy that I picked it off and made it bleed. I've done that too with stuff on my face. It's very itchy again, quite hard and crusty. It has puckered up, fighting with myself not to scratch it and pick it so I can see this time what it's going to do. Still hacking, blowing tons of crap almost daily. Yeah. Had something look like a lump of coal come out of my ear. Yeah, that's the stuff that, and she showed me a picture of it, and it looks like what's coming out of my dog's ear. A lot of yeasty, waxy stuff. Some people have yellowish and orangish, waxy stuff. So you figure that's like the different colors, like it's telling you that when it's dark, it might be infection. Okay? So I get it. Some things are going on in my dog that I have to deal with. When it's like, I have like white that comes out when if I ever like pick my ear, or if I get itchy and something comes out, it's like, oh, it's white. So white, flaky, okay. Little white, waxy in certain cultures, okay, not a big deal. You just kind of clean your ears, whatever. I'm sure that as it gets through the different hues, from the white to the yellow to then the orangish to the reddish brown, that shows the amount of aggressive activity, the amount of life that's in it. That's the thing about the color of earwax, is the colors are depicting like the red shift, blue shift, all the different colors that tell you the frequency, the energy frequency within the yeast, within the wax. Because it's not just earwax, there's also life within it. Okay, and you're like, oh my God, but your body's made up of microbes and they're all life. So that's why you have to be careful using cures, because you don't want to destroy the life, because it'll come back with a vengeance. But you also want to give some relief to the host so that they don't feel like they're being tortured or suffering, as people would say. So anyway, she's still hacking stuff. Then she had something look like a lump of coal come out of her ear. It left me wondering how it managed to be in and out such a small space. And it's because it develops. Let me tell you, there are so many things that go on inside of you. You have an actual laboratory, a factory. You have what you would see as the United States, the UK, Africa, Asia, the whole world in your body. That's how do you wrap your mind around that whatever out there at the macro level and the micro level, it's what's in here. No, you don't have a couch in your body, but you still have components of a couch in your body. When someone says, oh, don't eat margarine because it's only one molecule away from plastic. And I'm just like, at first, a couple years ago, I was like, oh my God, we're eating plastic, we're eating, and everyone's freaking out because of all that. And in reality, it's just molecules, it's just elements, it's just different chemistry. And, you know, you eat the elements that are palatable, and your body needs trace minerals, and anything that's in excess more than your body needs, it gets released through your poop, pee, and all that stuff, okay? So you have the world out there in microbial forms and in elemental forms, in trace forms. No, I don't have a computer in me, but I have traces of the different minerals that make up the computer in my body. And it acts like a computer in a lot of ways. There's input, output, and it needs to be maintained. Okay. So I've been coughing out hard, sharp, triangle shape, and coughed out 2 quite large tumors, which I wish I had taken photos of instead of standing there wondering, what the fuck are you? One was larger than the other. They filled up the plug hole in the bathroom sink. They were quite soft and white. Some days, the crushing, cutting, moving sensations drive me to complete distraction, and I can't think about anything else. After those days, the purge is huge. I also have days where everything I eat, I brings on a purge. Food goes down, mucus comes up, crazy shit. There's still a lot more, but that's plenty for now, I think. Yeah, I mean, when you have those, when you have like the tumors and stuff, that's like another life form developing. Like it senses that there's something going on that it's going to try to be stronger. That's what I'm saying. What cancer is like when another life form is trying to take over. Which another scientific way, that's the allegory way, right? That's kind of the scary, like, oh my God, you're getting possessed. But the other side of it is that there's so much negative on one side of your body that there's got to be a positive. And Mother Nature will always try to find a way to stay alive, even if she has to put in another entity, another life form that is like another head or another body with eyes and hair and teeth. You're like, holy crap. That's some stuff for Dr. Zhivago, or not Dr. Zhivago, Dr. whatever. So yeah. So anyways, that's the thing is, do you really want to know what's in your body, guys? And that's what you're going to have to come to terms with. There's a lot of stuff in your body. There's going to be a lot of pain. That's why we're in this whole Georgia Guidestones. That's why the whole Walking Dead, the Hunger Games, all of that, because they know the monsters they have developed within people. And then trying to manage the monsters when they emerge, when they come to surface. And this is why the CDC said the whole zombie apocalypse. This is why the Bible has all these different things about good and evil and Satan versus this and Satan versus Savior. I mean, every single politics, religion, and science understands at the microbial level what's going on, at least all the elite in all of those different politics, religion, and science. But then the lay person gets the stories behind it, gets the entertainment. They don't realize they are the ones that they're talking about. The power elite in all of their movies and the media that they're talking about, they're actually talking about you in all the movies and all the stories and Netflix and documentaries. It is about you and what's in your body. And so, you know, I'm watching my dog go through her processes. You know, she's reversing the aging process, but she still has to release. There's still a lot of life in her that was bred in her to program her in a specific way. And there's so many animals being programmed in specific ways. And that's why there's lifespans. That's why they go to the cures market. That's why you must have a veterinarian or a doctor if you don't know what you're doing and you want to keep your animal in the same way until there's nothing left. And that's the death process. That's the process that is the suffering of humanity. It's fun when the animals are young and they're growing and they're in their relative equilibrium. The suffering is when the body starts declining. The suffering, I mean, it's great when a human is kind of growing up a little bit and they're young and they are growing up and then they get to a certain point and they look cute. They've had all the different remedies and cures and nips and tucks and things from biotech or from the holistic industry to kind of keep them in that steady state, to keep them in that relative equilibrium. They fit into an archetype. They fit into a persona. They found their little niche and it's accepted by people in society. And so they want to stay that way forever. But then you see people fight the aging process because they've never figured out that you can only be cured and be in equilibrium, look young and cute and whatever for so long. I mean, look at Madonna fighting it. There are certain stars in Hollywood are embracing that their decline process because they haven't been introduced to this, or if they have been, that they've been scared away from it. And other stars are taking so much plastic surgery. Other stars are using Botox and fillers and hiding behind massive amounts of makeup and all the things that people do to show off or to show an image that probably isn't the truth. When you think about it biophysically, it's what they want to look like. And then you, at some point, you can't even hide behind the makeup or the Botox or the plastic surgery or whatever, because Mother Nature knows when Mother Nature does take her due. And so then people start rationalizing why it's okay to age. It's okay to, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, if you haven't been introduced to this and you don't, and you're not, or you just don't want to deal with the energy of going through the purge and the rebuild stage, then yeah, you would embrace the aging process. You would say everyone should die someday, because it's so much work to reverse the aging process and to purge and to rebuild and to eat and to deal with mucus. I mean, it's hard enough for myself. Imagine taking care of an animal or a kid. Some people have to sacrifice certain things in their world because they can't handle doing it for or helping their kid through it. And I'm not saying that some people's kids are really old, but I mean, not really old, but like even a younger child. It's like it's taken so much just to take care of you, and then so that it's easier to take your kid to the doctor. I get it, and it's acceptable, socially acceptable. It's actually it's encouraged. Of course, it's encouraged. If you don't know what you're doing, and you can't be 100% in the game with making sure your kid and your animal and everything is 100% going through the process correctly, and you know exactly every indicator and how to respond to it without using antibiotics or whatever, then you're going to take your kid to the doctor, your animal to the vet, of course. But again, my situation is unique. But I strategically made this situation happen. It took me ever since 2010 when I first met my husband to get to this point. And we've been through many different battles of living situations, lifestyles, who was going to be in our life, who was not. I mean, this wasn't like, oh, all of a sudden I woke up one day and here I have, everything I possibly want. No, I had to work for this. This was not easy. Because again, when you're in an area where people are mostly out there turning out widgets physically, and I come from a world where you can turn widgets intellectually, it's hard for those two worlds to merge. It's hard for one world to understand the other world. And so having to explain what I'm doing to people who don't understand this side of the world, it takes a minute. It's not easy. And so not everybody turns widgets physically. Some people can turn widgets this way. And this is the whole point of the JJ mentality, is that you could turn widgets like your hands and then eventually turn widgets here, and those two will work together, and then you can have a new innovation that'll make something for humanity easier, so you don't have so many widgets out there suffering and being exploited doing the hard labor. Because that's like the miners and all the real just labor intensive jobs that really are hard on people's lungs, hard on their body, hard on their relationships. And you want to give them a chance to say, okay, you can develop up here. Because once those hard labor jobs disappear and machines take over, people are going to have to be forced to deal with what they have up here and develop that, because there's not going to be those specific jobs that are all about just the hard labor. or turning out widgets. Okay? So anyways, but understand the main point of all of this, which now I'm getting to even more, I'm narrowing everything down here. Yeah, all the viruses come from the drug industry. But wait, hold on a second. The drugs are not poison. No, they're not poison, but what comes out, well, they're FDA approved. I mean, they've done all the tests to make sure they don't have toxicity, but it's how the drugs interact with the population. And when the drugs interact with the population, it's what the human spits out. Again, you don't keep your personal protection, your medication, all of your different preventatives. You don't keep it to yourself. And this is why we have aggressive amount of viruses. And so that's what viruses are. They are the byproducts of the drugs and the antibiotics and people's defense systems trying to level up. And so that's why we are surrounded. And you're going to have to be extremely strong, because you have no idea, the people around you, how many drugs they have taken or what drugs you have done. Okay? And that's all doing stuff under the radar until it becomes on the radar. And then it's sometimes the point of no return. But that's what viruses are. Viruses are the byproducts of the drug industry, influenced by the human's defense system, because remember, again, drugs have been targeting specific things. And so if your body, so let's go deeper, if your liver is defending itself against a drug like cyclosporin, then that's a monoclonal antibody that can be used in the drug industry for whatever. And it's also a virus that will then potentially attack someone's liver, because it's an antibiotic, and then it also has some drugs have aspects of it. That's what drives the intention is the drug. And then there's antibiotic qualities within it because the defense system, and then you have to defend yourself against that. And if your defenses are weak, somebody else's drugs that are attacking, that are suppressing the immune system, and the body's building defense against it, then that is then what your body has to reconcile with. And when you're being overwhelmed by people and all of their drugs and their medications, and then they're spitting it out in the atmosphere, that's why people don't survive their friends and family. You see what I'm saying? See how this works? I get it now. I know someone said, oh yeah, HIV or AIDS was made in a lab and all. No. I mean, you could say anything is possible. Can I say no? But I can see how it can develop in the population. I can see how it could develop in the population because of the drug industry, because of the organ transplant industry, because of biotech. Biotech has developed all the different viruses as a byproduct because of their intentions. What is it? The road to hell is paved by good intentions. That's what biotech is. They've created the hell that we're in. Can they get us out? I doubt it, unless they decide to introduce salt and water and people purging, and all of a sudden you see the Garden of Eden everywhere. I'm getting it now, but I appreciate all of you guys. I really do. This is not easy, and I feel bad for a lot of those that are suffering, because you know that the cannabis industry has become so huge for a reason. But then again, when you do too much of a good thing, when everybody has done so much of a good thing, an occasional friendly, right? Then the allergies develop, the addictions, the allergies, and then the new drugs that will go and combat the cannabis allergies. And you have all the asthma, and you have all the other things that go along with. Oh my God! And it's just it's a chain reaction, it's a string, it's a domino effect of how the therapies industry keeps itself alive. The more drugs and therapies you sell to people, the more they will spit out a new version of something. You have more of an exotic disease, and there you go. And now it's influenza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many versions of influenza are there? I couldn't even count. How many versions of COVID? Oh, there's probably so many. How many versions of AIDS? I'm sure there's a lot of versions of it. How many versions of any of these viruses? And so, I wouldn't necessarily blame any specific component of the therapies industry, because that's how they're able to distract people and discredit them when they say something very correlation equals causation on Facebook. But I would say the medical holistic system as a whole has caused the viruses. All the therapies industry and all the practices of taking out organs and using transplants and all that has caused the viruses. And that whole industry needs to come down if you want to have peace in this world. Because right now people are fighting each other at the micro level and at the macro level. But how do you fight a huge industry like the medical holistic system? You don't fight it. You give people, you give another scenario, which I'm doing, and I understand why the scenario had to exist. Because if you're going to nation build and you're going to have people stay in one job for 20 or 30 years, then that equilibrium will then develop innovation. And then every war and every turn of the century then develops more innovation, but at the expense of the people to help the people. That's the irony of it, is that parts of your body are going to be sacrificed in the war, because even though before the J juice or before the JJ meta mentality, you were still able to function at certain percentage of capacity, but whatever was causing you the suffering has to go. And so you are sacrificing parts of you and then rebuilding parts of you that are being sacrificed. Well, that's what's going on out there in the world. There are aspects of the world that are going to be sacrificed. And it will be mostly voluntary. But you know, it happens in different places. It's not always voluntary. Okay? And so that's the balancing of the good and evil. Is that you know that parts of you and parts of the world and parts of your family and friends or whatever are not going to make it. And just be the one to make it. And it's not going to be pretty during the process. Some of you are dealing with so much stuff. And I'm dealing with it too with my dog. I pretty much figured out my stuff. I had to go through some hell. But she has to now go through some parts of it. But she's more on the other side of it. But now it's just building her up and developing new routines, of which I'm enjoying, because it's nice to be out there. Because during the winter you're closed in anyways. So COVID during the winter can make people go crazy. But when the sun comes out, it's like a new breath of fresh air, hope for life, all that. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.